That is, we have our premium sponsors who are NetApp, Roche, Siemens Healthineers, Deloitte, Infusion, and our sunset sponsor, which is Infineon. So for today, we have a lot packed for you. That is, we're starting with the Makeathon concept, with the challenge pitches, and the next events that are going to take place in the next 2 weeks. And we're going to start with the Makeathon. What is the Makeathon? That is a 48-hour challenge. And this year we have a topic that is the AI for social good. And basically, participants get together to conceptualize best business idea which incorporates AI. And they also developed small AI models who, in order to demonstrate that their business model is feasible. And this is all being done from students, from experts, from very many different domains. Then as next, we have our mission, which is going to be presented by Sebastian.
Well, we are a student initiative with TUM.ai, and we really want to facilitate the application of artificial intelligence across domains to have a real impact in interdisciplinary projects. We want to connect you, bring you together like today, and we want to execute stuff. We want to bring you together with companies and offer students and young professionals practical experience. And we finally also want to learn together. Therefore, our aim is to lower the entry bar to create AI usage cases for people in every domain by establishing a platform. And so we are very glad that you guys are here today with us.
Moving along, we would like to share some statistics with you. That is, we have 400 applicants, and 72% of them want to be members of TUM.ai. And in total, we have 200 amazing participants who are going to take part of this journey. And being international as possible is one of our goals at TUM.ai. And for this Makeathon, we have 57 different nationalities, and we are covering 6 different continents. And 90% of them are in the Central European time zone. Now, moving along with our timetable. You're gonna hear it in detail what's gonna happen these 2 weeks.
So we will start off this week with our education days from 10th of April to the 16th of April. I think the most important event is going to be for every participant the team finding event tomorrow from 8 to 10 p.m. We're going to do workshops, for example, with Unetic, a business workshop, but also an OpenAI Codex workshop with OpenAI. On the 14th, we will have an AI for beginners with Luminovo. And then on the 15th, also very important, your team submission at 11:59 p.m. sharp. So we get you all together. On the week after that, after Easter, we start from the 18th of April to the 22nd of April with the Deep Dive Days, also short DDD. We will start with the announcement of the teams, and then we will have several expert talks from NetApp, from Infineon, from Roche and Healthcare Explorers, from Infusion, and then also a very cool event to get you connected to our challenge setters and to our premium sponsors is the Partners Lounge from 8 to 10 p.m. And then we will all together kick off the Makeathon on the 22nd at 10 a.m. Together. But not over yet. There will be then the making phase and the finals from the 22nd of April until the 24th of April. This will be then also the finish line for every team after a 48-hour, very challenging phase. And then it's hopefully finally game over for all of us.
So make sure to not miss out on the team submission that is ending on the 15th of April, exactly on midnight. And because without team submission, you cannot participate for the Makeathon. So make sure to not miss on that. And For this Makeathon, we're collaborating with OpenAI. That is, you will get access to two of their models, that is GPT-3 and Codex. GPT-3 is used to produce natural language, and it's basically from the domain of natural language processing from AI. And the Codex, it is used to turn text into code, and we're quite excited to see how you will utilize these models for your projects. Then for support, you have 24-hour help from us. That is, you can contact us at any time in Slack. Make sure to be a part of all of the channels. Here you can meet other people, you can find your team, you can ask for support from our side, from experts that are working in business or in AI. And of course, you can take part in one of our challenges, that is the meme challenge or the pub quiz, and make sure to stay up to date by checking in your Slack. Then for submission, we have the deadline is on the 24th of April. That is, you need to submit your slide deck by Google Drive, your prototype of your AI model via GitHub, and instructions. This is of course optional, and for further details you're gonna get an additional message on Slack. And for the track jury, that is next weekend. That's next weekend. You're going to be evaluated by a track jury. So 35% of your project is going to be based on your business model, 40% on tech, and 25% on social impact, because this year's theme is AI for social good. And going furthermore, some teams, 6 teams will go to the finale, and based on your performance, you will be judged by a final jury. This time a different percentage, 30% business model, 40% tech, and 30% influence. And this is going to take on the 24th of April, starting at 6 p.m. Central European time. And last but not least, we have the awards for the finals. That is, the first team is going to win 2,000 euros. Second team is going to win 1,000 euros, and third team is going to win 500 euros.
That's a huge prize, actually.
Yeah. And we have our smaller challenges. That is the meme challenge and the pub quiz challenge, where you get to compete for a bit smaller prizes. That is 100 euros each. But for these challenges, the first one is the meme challenge, where you have to post the best meme in our meme challenge channel on Slack, and the meme with the highest trophies, emojis, is actually the winner. And for the pub quiz challenge, this is going to be this week. You have to join in our quiz, and of course the winner gets the prize.
So lots to win,
yes.
Not much to lose this weekend. The upcoming 2 weeks, actually.
So this year's theme, as I mentioned, is AI for social good. And as last time, we have different tracks. This time we have 3 tracks, that is education, healthcare, and environment. And your project, your business plan basically has to fit in one of these 3 tracks. Whether you choose healthcare, education, or environment, that is your personal choice. And going down the line, you can also choose between company challenges, which already pre-fit these 3 tracks. Or you can go your individual challenge path, where you conceptualize and you think about a problem in our society that you want to solve on your own, with your own team, of course. And please bear in mind that this individual challenge path has to fit in one of these 3 tracks.
And now we're coming to the most important part of today, which is our challenge setters. We are very happy that we could get 9 challenges from companies, from government institutions, and from non-government organizations. They provide a challenge with a convincing use case. They provide us with help and expertise, and they will also provide us with a data set that you actually can fulfill the challenge. So I think like a virtual applause is in order, that we all got them on board. I want to thank them very, very much. A lot of effort went into the challenges, and so we are very, very glad to have them on board today. We will start with the first track, which is education. We'll start with Brian. I'm very happy that we have Ralf Forsbach with us. He's the co-founder of Brian, which is a social learning platform for learners and educators. So welcome, Brian, to the stage. Welcome, Ralf, to the stage. I'm sorry, like this is super confusing.
So thank you very much. Well, then let me just share my slides. So thanks for the introduction. My name is Ralf. I'm here to represent Brian. We are a young startup from Zurich, and we aspire to be the social learning platform for students and teachers at higher education. And before I jump right into the challenge, I'd like to say what we are actually doing and what we believe in. And we believe to be an educational platform which leverages social learning benefits. We believe that learning and studying together is much more beneficial if you're exchanging knowledge with your peers, exchanging thoughts, because the information is often there. It just needs to be shared and learn together. Number two, learning and teach is such an individual task. So we believe that learning has to be individually as well. So we want to optimize the learning path of every individual student, but simultaneously also helping teachers to teach even better. And last but not least, student engagement is so important for studying, for everything you actually do. That's why we believe for high learning engagement, we want to deliver fun and learning. So our application is social, data-driven environment to perfect study. And how do we actually do it? So when you look at studying throughout one semester, there's just often one exam at the very end. So students learn over 4 or 5 months, and then there's one exam. What we want to do, we want to reintegrate the learning and assessing, meaning that we will continuously quiz our students in order to know what they know and what they don't know. Like this, we generate insightful real-time data on their learning path. And this data is highly valuable for the students themselves, because like this, we can individualize the learning process for them, but also play back the data aggregated for the teacher to really react in real time on problems or to rework their curriculum. Just what have we achieved so far? And I just want to highlight one thing here, that we have students at University of St. Gallen, and class I'd like to highlight is the business administration class, and they're answering 4.2 million questions by 1,600 students in just one semester. That means on average, they answered 2.6 thousand questions in just one class and one semester. And actually, that's also what the challenge is about. I'll skip this. So the problem is that students might just by repeating the content over and over again, by pure pattern recognition, to answer all those questions correctly without ever having understood the content. So our challenge is, how can we eliminate this problem? How can we make the recognizability of the questions as low as possible? Because then they will need to engage with the content to really understand the content, and then they will also be superior in the exam. Looking at the data set we will provide you, we will give you the data from 2 classes. So you get roughly 1,400 questions and roughly 4,000 answers from those 2 classes. So really like the question they being put in front of them, but also the material where those questions derive from. So all slides as a PDF and PPT, so roughly 1,000 slides, and you get both books as PDF, and I even got one book as a doc, so it will be easier for you to harvest the data. We also have our own price, because the solution can be highly valuable for us. So if you come up with a workable working solution where you're able to double the content and generate questions which are at least 60% usable, and it will not be us determining whether they're usable or not, it will be the University of St. Gallen. So really the teachers looking at that content. And then, documented as well what kind of solution we're expecting, because it would be nice if we could really use it afterwards. So that's why also the price money is there for. I forgot to mention also the business case. Look at who might be benefit from this solution. Is it clients, users, maybe people we haven't thought about? And there are many different ways of how to solve this. We have some in our mind, but yeah, we would like to pose this question openly. That's it from my side. Looking forward to your questions.
Yes, and so first of all, thank you very much, Ralph, for this great pitch. Now you participants have the chance to ask questions. First of all, via the YouTube stream, they will come into the studio, as well as on Slack in channel number 3, Company Challenge Pitches. And as soon as we have them, we will directly shoot them to Ralph. So yeah, I think this is a very exciting challenge. Ralph, your company is coming from Switzerland, right? Is this the education topic there a bigger part than in Europe, or why did you choose to start there?
Not necessarily. I guess it's just because we are based in Switzerland, and also my team. Maybe just a few words on the team. It will be 3 team members really supporting you. So it will be Ruben, who developed the entire software. Then we have one person, his name is Kumar. He is doing a PhD at the ETH Zurich. He's like a master in individualized learning and pretty good in machine learning. That's what he's on. And then it will be, from a business perspective, will be me. But all 3 of us will be in the Slack and supporting you.
Right, we are still waiting on questions to participants, so make sure to type them either on YouTube or channel number 3, Slack.
I can maybe elaborate more in the meantime
Yeah,
to fill the time. The point is, creating questions manually is quite a lot of work for the teachers. So the more questions there are, of course, the more broad you can learn or have to learn the content to really understand it. However, it is like I said, a tough task to come up with good and meaningful questions. Iterating on those questions on the same topics automatically would really solve a lot, and would really push students into understanding more what they're learning and not just learning by heart.
Right. Since
we have one question now. How did you come up with your business idea? Maybe you could elaborate a bit more about that.
Well, the business idea is it's way broader. It will take quite some time, but just saying that we are in a complex ecosystem. So we will not just provide added value to the teachers by reaching higher learning goals. We will not just create added value for the students in order to have an engaging and efficient learning tool, but we also, and that's the main value proposition actually for our paying customers, is help in the quality assurance of the universities. Because right now, especially in the big classes when they have like thousands of students in front of them, they have no clue what is understood and what not. But by having students continuously answering questions, they get an insight when they're studying, what can't do right now. And this will also play back in accreditation processes to have a big, to be good in rankings for universities. So this is kind of a short wrap up of the ecosystem and our business.
If we now look at, we have a question from Zidhart Bargava, sorry for my pronunciation. And he asked about the increasing content in schools. Is the agenda to generate questions that have the same semantic interpretation, or can they also have different context from the existing ones?
I think both is fine. Both are fine. I think as long as those questions are meaningful for the students, both is fine. And I've also been reading those questions. Maybe then I can answer one more. How are they coming up with questions right now from Philip? And it's the teachers. So teachers are really sitting down, creating those questions based on the slides, based on the book, based on their understanding of what students should learn.
Then we have another question from Ying Yang. Did I understand correctly that we have to generate a new relevant question? I think we already answered that. And then from Robin Frasch, about your challenge. Basically, they are looking for a method, or you're looking for a method to create more challenges without changing the numbers. For example, if it deals with a math-related question, right?
We don't have math, but yes, there's no math-related question in there. So of course we don't have like you sell 5 apples in one case and then you just change the number of apples in the next case and that's it. So we don't have that. So I think your challenge will really be in understanding those questions and coming up with similar questions, alternative questions. I mean, one example just coming up is, well, how many apples do you have? How many apples are there? You can have different formulations of the same problem, even though it was just math problems right now. But you can tweak it without differentiating the content. That would be like an easy one.
Well, thank you very much for answering the participants' questions. We wish you a nice evening, and then we move on to the next company.
If there are any more questions, I'll read the channel 3 on Slack, and I'll be happy to answer them within the next 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And now we're moving on to the next challenge,
which is Enactus. And I'm very happy to have Noah with us. Enactus is one of the biggest global entrepreneurship initiatives for students. And we also have one in Munich. And so we are very glad to have Noah, and especially the partner manager from Enactus with us today. And so Noah, welcome.
Good evening, Noah.
How are you?
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, great to be here. I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Good. The stage is yours. Yeah, get our participants
Excited about the next challenge.
exactly.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm actually like especially happy to be here because we had this same kind of cooperation last time already, where we had like one project that's currently like in the phase of preparing to be founded, then hopefully like later in that year. So yeah, hopefully we can give again like a challenge that you students find like a great solution for, that maybe would make sense to like become a startup one day. So let me share my screen. So what we see as one of the biggest challenges in our society are providing suitable technologies that will help seniors. And with seniors, we mean all the like elderly people who are currently like in the elderly care homes and so on. And we see 4 main problems that these old people are currently facing. The first point is like the social isolation, so that they are like in this, kind of own world, like not really integrated into society. They just like live for themselves, don't really have like new impulses and so on. So I mean, it like sounds hard, but they are basically like just waiting to die most of the time. The second one is like the physical decline, so that they are not that mobile anymore, so like that they're not really able, like with their physical skills, to do what they could do maybe when they were younger. Then there is the cognitive decline, so like the most prominent example is like dementia and so on, and that is generally quite hard for them to remember things. And then the last challenge that we see is that all those seniors, like over the course of their life, they gained like a lot of experiences and knowledge and so on, which basically gets lost when they're not there anymore. So those are like the 4 challenges that we would bring here to this Makeathon, and that we hope to find some solutions for. And we already thought about like what good solution could look like, since we don't really have data that we can provide you. So we think that like a good solution should be something that's in the best case like based on some resources that those seniors already have, and that would be like super easy and super senior friendly for them to use. And just like to give you like an impression of who the target users in the end could be, they could be like on the one side seniors themselves, like seniors who would then like use this technical solutions that you would come up to, or some organizations that are like close to the seniors, so senior care sessions and so on. And we already had some ideas in mind. So for example, using some voice-based solutions, maybe bringing GPT-3 in there, like to having some kind of a voice-based biography writing or voice-based machine learning that would maybe help them to teach certain things or to remember things or learn things. So I think that whatever like would be like suitable here that would not require that much trained data could be an option, I think. Yes, and that's basically it from my side.
Well, this is a very interesting challenge. I think also tackling one of the biggest trends, our demographic change in Europe, especially, and also in North America, maybe less in Asia. Let's wait for some questions again from the participants. We are waiting for them in Slack channel number 3, but also via YouTube. And maybe just a personal question, why is that such a topic, like a hearty topic for you, Noah?
So for me personally, it's actually a super relevant topic because my grandmother would be one of the persons who could, in the best case, use the solutions that you come up to. So she's like for some years now, struggling with dementia and so on. And that was basically the first time that I like got some kind of like exposed to this world and like all the problems that we have there. And I think that when we could find a solution, then that would be like a great use case to use like new technologies and really bring them like into, just in the end, like a lot of value for certain people.
Maybe another question from my side. Do you think it's going to be a challenge creating technology for senior people? That is, for example, younger people tend to utilize technology much more and are familiarized with it, whereas senior citizens do not have necessarily the extensive knowledge when it comes to technology.
Yes, I definitely think so. So what I see actually, what positively surprised me was that a lot of seniors have actually already some kind of smart devices with them. So I mean, it's not that kind of an advanced use that they are doing, but most of them have smartphones. They have some kind of smart devices in their home and so on, and they're using that already. So I think like to go directly to the seniors would always be like a challenge where we need to keep that in mind, like how well are they able to use it and so on. But I think that one use case that we could start with is actually maybe like in those like organizations that are like close to the seniors. So using that maybe first like as some kind of a part of a therapy, for example, like where you would have some trained people, like some people who are familiar with the technology, who show them how to use it and who do it with them together. And then maybe somehow they would then be able to use it on their own maybe later.
When we now think about data, maybe you could elaborate a bit more on what data sets to use in your challenge.
Yeah, so that actually would be one of the biggest challenges because we don't really have data that we could provide. So I know that there is some data set availability out there, like that could be used. And I think therefore it would also be interesting to look into all those open AI codecs, GPT-3 and so on, and see what we can do with that, where we don't need to have like a lot of pre-trained data.
Yes, so that's definitely a great idea for the participants to utilize codecs or GPT-3. And there's a plethora of data sets that are open source that can be used for such a project, I think. This is quite doable, and I'm quite excited to see what the participants do for this challenge. Now, while we wait for the questions from the participants, can you check if there are any questions?
At the moment, we still don't have questions, unfortunately. So please feel free to put them into the Challenge Setter channel on Slack, and maybe Noah, you also could have a look later, and in case some questions arise, answer them and help them.
Yes. So all of the presenters are going to be also available in Slack for you to contact them, and feel free to write the questions there today, tomorrow, as long as it's quite important to ask the questions before the team submission deadline, so you get all the information necessary for these challenges, and you will also gain access to this presentation that we have shown you tonight. And this has been challenge number 2, and I think now it's time to move to challenge number 3, that is presented by Dylan.
Thanks, guys.
And we're very happy to have you here. It's from NGO, or like a collaboration of different students' initiatives called Initiatives for Humanity. And I think it is quite a recent development, and I think it's also a great initiative that you also co-founded, which is that the entrepreneurial community in Munich supports good causes. And what bigger cause to support at the moment than our friends in Ukraine. And so, therefore, welcome to the stage, Dylan. How are you? And
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I'm doing very well. Maybe one more sentence towards Initiatives for Humanity. So we actually did one project so far. We collected over 22K for Médecins Sans Frontières, so Ärzte ohne Grenzen, to help the situation in the Ukraine. And now our next project is actually this cooperation with TUM.ai, where we also set a challenge for to help towards the situation in the Ukraine. It's important to know that it's kind of a bit of a special challenge, because it's less about developing a business model, but more about actually developing something which is usable after 48 hours and helps people affected from the war. So much. I'm going to quickly share my screen and also share one slide with you, and then I can take you along and really give you the challenge.
So this is really a challenge with a big social impact. Get your questions ready, and also feel welcome to put them onto Slack and also via YouTube.
Nice. Yeah, I actually have problems sharing my screen. So do you have the backup slide, or should I just do it like without sharing? Because with me, Teams is blank when I want to share it.
I can stop sharing. 1 second.
But with me, when I open the sharing, it's actually gray.
Yeah.
So.
1 second.
But otherwise, I'm also happy to just say it out of my head and then share the screens later on with you.
We're just checking if we have the slides. In the meantime, I'd just like to mention that this year's topic is AI4SocialGood, and having a challenge regarding the current situation in Ukraine takes loud action. That is, in my opinion, it has quite a big social impact when it comes to the current situation, and being a part of such challenge will not only help you contribute to society, but you will also show your skills when it comes to showing the power of AI that can help impact our society.
Perfect. There it is. Thank you so much. All right. So about the status quo, the background of the challenge. It's actually the cases, the war in the Ukraine is affecting the lives of many people all around the world. And these people need to regularly stay updated about the current happenings. So they constantly scroll through the news. And this results in many individuals actually feeling kind of overwhelmed. So it's a never-ending cycle of negative information they are looking at. And this leads to a feeling of stress, which renders the individuals passive to action because there's so much information overload and negative information that that it actually has bad effects on the individual. And this phenomenon is called doom scrolling. You may have heard of it. One example is my friend Kate. She was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and moved to Germany to study. And ever since the war started, she's constantly glued to her phone from morning to late in the night, and she's reading the news about her home country because she needs to stay updated about the newest governmental decisions that may also affect her visa or financial situation. So she's constantly impacted by all the horrible and negative news, which she also reads about, like the pictures she sees, but also the fake news and the hate speech she sees on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. But of course, it's still important that she does read the news because it affects her. But it's also important that we can kind of remove the negative impacts of this doom scrolling. So our idea is to develop a solution which combats the negative effects of doom scrolling. And we thought the best way to do it is using Codex or any available text classification model to develop a functional and shareable product that can classify these posts on Facebook, etc., and that can classify them if it's relevant news for this person, if it's like a scam, if it's a bot message, if it's hate speech, and then to classify them and that she can filter them out, or that individuals can filter the news to only get the news that's important for them, and so that they don't have this much negativity. And this could, for example, be achieved by creating a browser extension that classifies Facebook posts as positive, neutral, or negative news, and then reduces the visibility of the negative news. So, as you can see, it's a very open challenge, but the importance here is to identify what the important news are for the individuals and what the filters must be to filter them out, and to actually develop a product which works after 48 hours that can immediately be like downloaded and used. Yeah, so much for the challenge. I'm happy to get your questions.
We already have a question. First question is, where do these people get their news mainly from? Your opinion, what do you think, which social media platform provides such fake news or scams or doom scrolling?
Yeah, so basically I want to leave this to the team, but I can give you input. So Twitter is, of course, always a very important site when it comes to receiving the newest news. And Twitter is always also under the criticism of having a lot of fake news, a lot of bot news. But I think Facebook and Instagram could also be very important here. But I would say it's open to the team to decide for the platform they want to tackle.
And then we have a second question. What would you say that potential scams are the biggest risk for these people? And could you share an example for a scam?
One example for a scam, more on the email side, but there's a lot of scam going around for like donation sites where they say, here, click on this link and donate. And oftentimes they are not verified, and it's actually people trying to make money and exploit the situation. So one idea here would be to filter out the donation scams by actually kind of comparing it to sites that collect all of the fake donations going around right now. That would be one idea. Exactly. But as you can see, it's like there are many different ideas in this area, and I think it's important for the team to focus on what is important for them to solve, which actually works after 48 hours. So focus on the platform, and then focus whether you want to filter out the scams or the fake news, or if you want to filter it for that the person just receives the newest governmental decisions that affect the visa. Exactly.
Maybe another question which came to our mind is what sources of data maybe to use. So when you think about the government regulations, when we think about the data from Twitter or from Facebook, do you have any suggestion how to retrieve it?
Yeah, so this would also be part of the challenge to find the right data set, which kind of fits to the scope of the challenge which the team wants to tackle. But we already had like checks, and it's very possible to find like databases with the newest scam donations, and there are also data sources which analyze news about the tone, if it's more negative or positive, and yeah. But I have to say, I'm not a tech expert. I'm more like communication science and sociology. So, but we will have a person which is there for the technical support in this case as well.
Then we have another question from our participants. Would you be able to help us spread such a solution after we build it? For example, that the participants can promote their solution.
Yeah, for sure, and that's actually
how would the participants actually see the impact that they create?
That's a good question. I mean, you could see it by measuring how many downloads you have. So if you manage to put it in the App Store, in the Google Store as a Chrome extension, then people can download it. And we from Initiatives for Humanity, we have a team where we would fully support you with a lot of partners and also on social media. So this is actually basically our strength as Initiative for Humanity to like kind of spread. So if it's something cool that you develop, we are fully supporting you, and we are super happy to bring this into the world together with you.
In my opinion, this sounds quite a challenge with a huge impact for our modern day world. So participants, if you're interested, make sure to contact us or apply for this challenge, as it can change the world of tomorrow. And do you have any more questions left, Sebastian?
So far, I think I'm good, or maybe I think there came another one. A question from Hamza. Can you use, for this challenge, can you use decentralized data?
I'm not an expert on decentralized data. If it makes sense, I'm sure you can use it. But I don't really know what the difference towards other data sources is. But I mean, you know, the challenge scope is to just find a data source and to filter out news so that the individual can use it. And however you achieve this.
This sounds amazing, sounds quite a challenge. And thank you, Dylan, for this amazing pitch. And participants, make sure to either select the challenge or your own individual path for the next weekend. And now we move on to the next challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For our next challenge, it is within the healthcare track. And here we have AI in healthcare. That is, we have different challenges, and those are going to be presented by Sebastian.
Yes, and I mean, this is a topic that really influenced us over the last 2 years now with COVID. I think like there's also a lot of impact be generated, and therefore we are super happy that we have so many challenges in the healthcare sector. And therefore I would like to welcome Siemens Healthineers to the stage. I'm very happy that we have Judith Richwin with us. She is the Executive Vice President for Customer Service and Finance, as well as Lukas Beschle, which is the Global Product Manager for WeScan. And therefore, Judith, the stage is yours. How are you? And yeah, happy to have you.
I think that Judith didn't make it on time, at least. Judith, if you hear me, say hello.
Well, then
if not, then I just checked whether the VP is there. Otherwise, I'll just jump in. Hi, my name is Lucas. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm the product manager of WeScan, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, there she is, right on time. Hi, Judith. We're just getting started.
Great. So I have the pleasure to do the opening for you, Lucas. But it's a pleasure for me, for all of you, that we can be part of it here. And also that we have, I think, something very, very interesting with us. And therefore, I just wanted to use that opportunity to give a welcome to all of you who participate, but also tell you how important this challenge is for us. And I think, Lucas, you will give more insights about it. So let's get started.
Yep. Thanks, Judith. Let's do that. By the way, it's somewhat of an unusual combination if you look at it on paper, because Judith is actually the EVP for finance, which is normally the people that kick our product managers' ass. But it's really different because if you take finance to the next level, then it's really advanced numbers crunching and seeing what kind of conclusions can we take from that. And I think that's pretty much some of the journeys that we have been through in the last 2 years, where we really looked at how can we leverage data. It started off with finance, but it then really went into different areas. And what we're going to show you today, this is basically where we ended up. So I'll try to also share my screen. It's only 2 slides, so no worries. That is my personal Teams channel. Okay. In the normal Zoom Zing-Zang, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so as said, product manager of WeScan. So what is WeScan? WeScan is something that builds on top of a technical capability that we have been bringing to the market about 3 years ago, which is called Syngo Virtual Cockpit. It's a software that basically enables to remotely run MRI scans. Now, why would you want to use that? The reason is that just as you have staff shortage in nursing, staff shortage in radiology technologists is a huge problem for radiologies basically across the world. So those are the people that you need to actually run the scan, because that's a pretty advanced technology in MRI scan, and to really run the scan, which is nothing that a patient might see, is anything from trivial. The problem is, if you look, for example, today in Germany, recent numbers, you have 1,000 full-time equivalent jobs open. So it's like this is scanners standing still. If you wonder why you have to wait for weeks for an MRI scan occasionally, that's because of that. It's not because there weren't not enough doctors. Now, what we did is that then we took this, and Judith and I are part of customer service. So this is a new services offering that we developed on top, which is then called WeScan, which is that we provide sort of a network of experienced technologists to perform scans. And the reason why this is so interesting is because you decouple the physical dependency of patient/MRI scanner and the actual know-how, which is the experienced and qualified tech. The interesting thing that then happened is that basically our large and specialized customers around the globe said, hey, this is pretty cool, but we want to do it because we are the greatest and the most experienced. And guess what? They're right. So basically what this morphed into in the last I would say 1.5 years, is that we are now really setting out to building a global customer-to-customer remote scanning platform in which we enable basically any kind of healthcare provider that is discovering remote scanning as a new way of sort of expanding beyond their current business, and want to move into the remote scanning market with minimal market entry and lowest transaction costs. And basically, we do this by taking the whole business infrastructure, including all those digitally enabled business processes that I will talk about in the next slide and that we will need you for, in order for them to enable their business. Because just think about an IT supply and demand management. There is no way that a healthcare provider could build up a supply and demand management system and the associated IT backend it takes on their own. They might be great in medical, but they have no idea about this kind of stuff. I think this is pretty straightforward. So how do we take this into the challenge? The challenge is basically called WeScan Predictive Routing. It sounds fancy in the first place, but what really is it? So the status quo is that, as said, there is a rampant staff shortage among MRI technologists. And at the same time, and Germany is a good example, so this is what our challenge will be dealing with, requires more and more diagnostics. So Germany specifically has a regulation that requires 24/7 MRI coverage. That, against the backdrop that during the night, you basically have no MRI scans, really. You have secondary stroke diagnosis, you have paraplegia, which is if you run your car against a tree and your spine breaks. That's what a paraplegia is, Querschnitt, or some other random things. So for a very, very few, however, very critical and important fields of diagnosis, you need 24/7 MRI coverage. And this, as you already don't have enough people during the day. Now, what we did is that we developed a remote on-call service, which is called WeScan 24/7, in which we basically leverage the fact that the remote technologists that we have on call, they basically sit at home. And as we can more or less tell in advance what kind of scans will be coming, then we can sort of have one remote tech leveraged for more than one on-call customer. So currently we're at a 1-to-4 ratio. And of course, what this does is that compared to if a healthcare provider would need to build their own on-call system within their hospital, they would need twice the cost, let alone the fact that they don't have the people in the first place. So why are you able to have those 1-to-X ratios? That's because I assume that no one, at least in this round here, intentionally decides, okay, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to have a stroke. Or at least in most cases, you don't proactively decide to run your car into a tree and get a paraplegia. Those are things that you can tell evidence-based from population health data. And this is where the challenge kicks in. So we want to team up with you guys and build a predictive routing engine that basically takes our WeScan supply and demand management and builds and combines it with a set of insights from a population health data set that we will provide to you in an anonymized way with our analytics partner Bindoc, which is a healthcare analytics company in Germany that we are partnering with for a long time. And we want this engine to also be possible to basically consume all the real life data that we will be collecting in those kind of business models cases going forward, in order to basically better predict the occurrence of those clinical incidents that we will be seeing during those night shift, for examples, depending on which kind of customer we are looking at. Yeah. So today we are at this 1-to-4 ratio, and we want to leverage AI and machine learning combined with that population data health crunching to say, okay, for this specific customer, you can go to 1-to-5, or you can go to 1-to-6, or even beyond. And I can tell you, in terms of economies of scale, this sounds little, but this has drastic effects. So what we will do is that we will provide you with those data sets alongside with the equations that we come up with, those 1-to-4 ratios. It's clinical equations, and it's easy to comprehend. I'm a political scientist, so if I can understand it, then you can do. And basically the challenge is about look at the data, crunch the data and the data that comes with it, try to uncover patterns in that population health data. So for example, during Christmas, more people have stroke. It's in the numbers. And then try to connect those patterns to the population health data that will come alongside with that. So this is data about age and disease states and all those kind of things, and try to deduct sort of a mechanism that can suggest, okay, for this and that location or for this and that month of the year, the probability that you will get those kind of scan requirements will go up or down, and really come up with a prototype that we plan to then, together with BinDoc, further develop to market readiness and try to leverage that within our system. So it's not the lowest brainer thing you could think of, but the one thing why I think this is really absolute key is for a sandbox, right? If we realize to do that, that has an imminent effect. So everyone in this call will feel the effect, because no matter where in, let's say, Germany, you will be visiting a hospital. If you need an MRI scan at night going forward, the likelihood that you will be benefiting from this innovation that we would like to team up with you on is comparably high. So I think that's a rather interesting thing, that you think eventually this might impact me or my loved ones or whatever, compared to, okay, let's just draw some sandbox and then let's just put it into a drawer and forget about it. Yeah, so we have, by the way, vast experience with cooperating with TUM, so we have good evidence that it's worth every effort putting into it. Are there any questions?
Well, the good thing is, first of all, it's not just students from TUM. We are all over the place. Basically, I saw people from KIT, from TU Darmstadt, and so on. So I'm also very glad that we have them on board. Additionally, another question that I personally ask me as a foodie, why is there so many heart strokes on Christmas? Maybe it's about the fatty food, but I'm not going to give that up. And then the second question we actually have from our participants is, as you are planning to use this real-time data, does our solution, or does the solution for the participants also have to work in real time? And for the pitch, for example.
So for the pitch, obviously you will not need to be able to consume real-time data. So basically you will get this. It's a data set of, I think it's 3,000 to 4,000 lines of data, but very specifically characterized. However, you should be thinking of a concept where you say, okay, going forward, if you are capable of consuming this and that kind of data in your real-time business experience, then this can feed into the prototype in the following way. So it's a real thing where we want to see how can you leverage data that you supply you with, and maybe add on top with dummy data that you create, but then have a conceptual portion where you say, going forward, there could be a learning portion in that prototype, because as you can think of, if you do something like this with Siemens, we're not only gonna test it out with one customer. So it would be interesting if you could give us, for example, insights in, okay, for example, if you have from the 1000th case on, you can yield additional insights from this engine, those kind of things. So let your creativity spark.
Another question that participants had was about the data. Like, what amount of data are we talking about? Maybe you could give us a bit of indication here.
So we have about 4,000 lines of data that is real life data. So it's data. So we will be providing you with data from about 5 real hospitals in Germany over a set of the last 3 years. So that's real data. And each of them has about, don't quote me on that, but I think about 10 variables or something. And then we will be providing you with elaborate detail on those kind of variables and why they are important. And then it's also part of the challenge that you sort of build a broader data set around that with dummy data to simulate certain things. So there will be a core data set of about, I think it's 3,000 to 4,000 data lines with the variables that go along. And then you can also see how you can sort of expand on that for reasons of simulation.
Then another question that we got from our participants, I think it's a very mathematical one. Me as a business person, I basically don't understand it completely, but maybe you can answer it. Why do we use AI to solve this problem? Are for such solutions not normally mathematical solvers used? For example, linear programming or mixed integer programming?
So A, I hope you're on the team. B, this is most probably the way to start. So you would start with regression kind of things and statistical methodologies. Yeah, absolutely, to crunch the data. But then, and this is also part of the challenge, how can you, so you sort of have that as a jump off point. And then the real interesting question is, what do you do from there? Okay, now going forward, you will consume real life data. And therefore, how do you connect this data crunching with a learning mechanism? Because we will be applying this and we will be gathering data. And that's really the holy grail where we want to get to. How can we turn from a pure one-time interaction data crunching system, which we could come up on our own, into a learning system that then real data is fed in? And I'll be very interested in a follow-up with the person that asked that question, because that's down to the point.
Yeah, I think you should get in touch afterwards. So thank you very much, Lucas, for your very convincing pitch.
Thanks.
Q&A time is now over. Also for the next pitch, I want to enhance everybody of our participants to write your questions into Slack. They will be immediately forwarded. No, there are no questions which should not be asked, so just feel free. And we are very happy to introduce our next challenge setter.
Yeah, that is NetApp.
And so we have Tyler Cady with us. He is into data science and machine learning and advanced analytics, as well as Adam Haidt. He's the principal engineer. He's a principal engineer at NetApp. So welcome.
Hey, thank you. How you doing?
Very good. You're in the States, right? So it must be quite a different time now. What time?
Yes, it is 11 a.m. here in Colorado.
So you just got up. Good morning. Yeah, so the stage is yours. Maybe just to introduce your company. NetApp is a cloud storage optimization provider. I hope I got that right. And so please go ahead. Hi.
Thank you guys very much. So yes, NetApp is a cloud storage provider, also on-prem storage provider, and we're very happy to be a part of this challenge. So this is our first year participating in it, and we have a lot of machine learning, AI type of activities going on in our R&D department. It is not one of our primary products, but we do use it on our own data science here internally, and reaching out and working with this Makeathon is very special for us. So to get right into it, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to introduce this challenge. Let me get that up.
Let's hope the line is not too long from the United States to Germany, but it's for sure it's our Wi-Fi in Germany, or our internet connection.
Yes. Okay. So we are also in the our challenge is going to be in the med tech world as well. So NetApp is not a medical company, but Tyler and I, when we were looking for a good data set and a good challenge, both had interesting stories and wanted to bring those to this challenge. So knee injuries are common in America and in Europe. And for this challenge, we're focusing, at least for this pitch, we're focusing on football. So we know that football, European football, is a very important and culturally fantastic thing to have all across Europe. And so we also have our own football here, and knee injuries are what take out our athletes constantly. So we care a whole lot about our kids and our professional athletes that are playing in those sports, and we would like to find a way to diagnose knee injuries a little bit better, because misclassification of a MRI or misdiagnosis of knee pain can lead to a huge cost for the athlete or for the sports club or even for the hospital that does this this analysis. So I do have a little bit of statistics here. There are, in high school here in America, high school athletes will have at a 13% rate, will have one knee injury per season. And a knee injury will then subsequently lead to further injuries, especially if it's misdiagnosed and not caught on time. Here, soccer will also tend to take out our young men and our young women. So 17% of young men will experience an ACL tear in high school, and 53% of young women will experience a knee injury as a result of playing soccer. So this is a very common, very big problem here. We would like to have an AI solution that goes through MRI images and assists with the classification of an injury. So we're providing a Stanford image set. I could talk a little bit more about that in a second, that has both normal and abnormal knee injuries in it. And these images have all been classified with either ACL tears or meniscus tears, or they're totally normal. What we'd like to do is have a program that assists in determining what's going on here. So if either the solution can, or if the doctor can correctly diagnose it and treat a tear, either of the ACL or meniscus or of any injury, then the proper treatment can be given, whether it's surgery or a physical therapy session or whatever's necessary in order to get the athlete back on the field right away. My wife recently had an ACL tear, and the doctor went in and discovered a lot more problems than the MRI had shown, and then was able to fix some of them, but it has been a really hard time. So between our own personal stories and what we see around the high school, college, and professional sports here, we'd like to help out the medical industry. That's what I have. I can stand for some questions, and I will definitely be paying attention to channel 3 in the Slack channel.
Well, that's that you're ready for questions. Guys, please ask them now via our Slack channel 3, as well as with the YouTube channel. And we also have the first question from our participants. What is the cost of getting an MRI done? And how often do people actually get this done? Or in this case, the high school students?
That's a very... It's a great question, because here in America we have our own healthcare. We have insurance companies which help to offset the cost of tests like this. So a test will range anywhere from $0 to thousands of dollars, depending on your level of insurance. I don't know that that's the case all across the world, but that's what we experience here. Should a high school student have the diagnosis to go get a test, that is one of the factors that they'll put into their decision. Should they need to pay for it, or their parents need to pay for it in order to continue the treatment. So it could be very expensive. It may not be, but if a MRI is taken, then being able to gather the right diagnosis off of it without having to go into further tests or to open up the knee to see what's going on would be very helpful.
So from my end, this is first of all, it's a predictive measure in order to not have a surgery maybe, but at the same day, it's to assess the damage, right?
Yes. Is the damage will the damage be a full-on tear that does need surgery, or can it be fixed? What type of surgery? Will it need orthoscopic surgery, or will it need to be completely opened up and stitched all the way back together? What type of surgery is it?
So the damage
Or can it be fixed with physical therapy and a little bit of rest? So all of that stuff is necessary, and if diagnosed properly, will reduce the cost to the athlete.
Maybe you could also give us a bit of a hint for the participants what data sets to use, and what extent you would expect them to use.
Well, if I understand the question, we have the data set that we're suggesting the teams use comes from Stanford Medical Center, Stanford University Medical Center, and it contains 13 MRI exams. 80% of those are abnormal, so there's something wrong with them. Of those that have something wrong, 23% are ACL tears and 37% are meniscus tears. So the images are also labeled as a result of post-operation or post-examination notes from the doctor. So you'll have some metadata about each image to know what actually went wrong there, and that might help in predicting another MRI that enters the set.
We also have a question from YouTube now. So it comes from Leonard Mack. Is it only multi-class classification or also segmentation?
I may have to lean on Tyler for that question. Can you repeat it? I don't think I heard the first part.
Is it only a multi-class classification and or a segmentation also? Probably it's a medical question.
The question is towards AI. What the question means is it does the model need to classify the injury, or does it also need to detect it on the MRI scan?
The closer you can get to classifying the injury, the better. If you're able to just see through the MRI what it is most likely to be statistically, that helps. But to actually classify it is the goal.
Yep. Hey, sorry, Tyler here. I had some bad internet connection and just got back on. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to have a multi-class classification problem, but we're open to pretty much any solution that you want to put forth, leaving it as open-ended as we possibly can. Just looking for some interesting solutions here.
Maybe a follow-up question for that from Ziggy Harat Ganju. How will classification eliminate the interference of a doctor?
It probably will. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to say this is just basically it's not going to eliminate the interference of a doctor, but we're trying to gain like just more clarity into these problems through this data. So essentially making it more, giving an apparatus to kind of augment the decision making for these doctors has a lot of potential value. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Not really eliminate doctors' input into these situations.
And I think I have one last question now, which is from Mark Arnold. Is there any reason to choose to go for MRI data over functional data like motion capture or manual assessments? Why did you choose to go with this technology?
What with this technology, just because we thought it would be interesting. We wanted to keep it relatively simple over the 48-hour challenge set. So that was kind of the consideration there, to be rather frank.
Right. Thank you very much. That has been NetApp. We have finished with our Q&A section. And if you have any further questions, please make sure to write them in Slack. Thank you very much, guys. And now we're going to take a short 10-minute break. And before we start our break, I'm going to give a short summary. We had our first challenge setters in our education track. We had Brian, Enactus, Initiatives for Humanity, And then going down the line in our healthcare track, we had Siemens Healthineers and NetApp so far. And after the break, we're going to hear from 4 other companies. That is Stadt München, AI4People, LMU Kinderklinik, and I think I'm missing one.
And start meeting.
I'm sorry for that. And please make sure to watch all of the challenge speeches and to find your team this week, and to not forget the submission deadline for the team formation. All right, we're gonna take a short 10-minute break, and we'll see you guys
At 7:30.
Correct.
So we are coming back all together. I hope everybody had a drink.
And now it's time for the next 4 challenge setters. And first up is the Elmo Kinderklinik. We have Daniel Weiss who's going to present their challenge.
Hello,
Hi.
Daniel. How are you?
I'm well.
Welcome to the Makeathon.
Thanks to the big chance to presentate here. So I'm working in the Children's Hospital of the University of Munich. And besides common diseases, we are specialized on rare diseases. So I show my slides. Just some short information about a rare disease. Rare disease numbers are for the European area, but it's, I think, in the worldwide the same numbers. So rare disease is when only 1 in 2,000 people has this disease. But unfortunately, there are 5,000 to 7,000 rare diseases. And this means that 6 to 8% of the population of the European Union is affected by one. And unfortunately, 30% of children with a rare disease will die before reaching their 5th birthday. So we try to get this problem solved. So it's a Dr. von Haunersche Children's Hospital in Munich. It's a children's hospital of the University of Munich. We can only diagnose and help 30% of children with rare diseases. So we have genetic diagnostic and everything, and this is a good value. But you can mention how what's with other children, and yeah. So we hope that through an integration of all data sources like blood values, genetics, proteomics, and so on, that we can increase this rate up to 70%. But our problem is that even a clinician cannot overview 30,000 features manually. So we need an AI solution for this. And so last year in January, we started with a severe study in our hospital where we collecting the health data of 5,000 children in a very structured way. So we use every diagnostic tool we have, genetics, lab values and questions to the parents and so on. And so we are creating a very big data model. And we hope that we can get an AI solution that analyzes this data model. And the challenge is for rare diseases, we always have very small data sets, and we cannot give you the data from our children in the hospitals because they are not anonymized. But I found the Mimic3 demo data set with 100 patients, and we have converted it to the human phenotype features. Later, I will just explain why we did this. But if you have the chance to develop an algorithm for it, we will run this directly after the Makeathon at our hospital on real patient data. So the problem with rare diseases and also from this challenge is that the data set is extremely small. So I assume that a standard supervised training algorithm will not work. So we suggest that you use existing knowledge, which feature is in relationship with diagnose. And luckily, there are a lot of this information in the internet. So we are focused on the human phenotype ontology and the knowledge graph of it. So there is a description about phenotypes, which means a blood value, for example, and the connection to the diagnose. And so we have a very big graph with nodes, and we need in this graph a supervised training algorithm which predicts later if the child has these features, then it is very likely that it has this diagnosis. And yeah, so for the business case, we in the children's hospital are very happy if we can get such an algorithm. But for the business case, with this algorithm, you can help children in Munich. But if you can develop a business case where other hospitals can use such a software or in a very easy way, then you can help children worldwide. So yeah, that's a short summary, but I think this question now would be good, and the detailed information will be in the deep dive, I think. So I have to stop my screen sharing. I don't know where. Here, I think. So yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Daniel. That has been the challenge from the Edible Kinder Clinic, and it's for Foundation Care for Rare. And now we're going to deep dive into the Q&A section, and we already have some questions stacked up. Starting with the first question is, what methods did you use to estimate the 70% that could likely be helped? Are there already solutions for some rare diseases that achieve this?
If I understood right, so at the moment we are using different techniques on the lab machines, for example, on the genetics diagnostics. There are a lot of algorithm working, but we haven't found an institute which combines all information. This is the main problem. And yeah, at the moment, from every lab machine, we get a filtering, like the top 5 genes which are perhaps relevant for a patient, but this is not compared with the blood values, or is later compared on a round of clinicians. But we hope that we can have a concept without filtering on this early stage, so that an AI views and on every feature of a patient.
Yeah, it was also about like, how do you know, or how do you measure those 70%? And maybe a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
Like, is this 70% rate higher with children than with adults? So why is this so important?
Okay, so yeah, so estimation with the 70%, we hope that we can go there, but of course there's no mathematics behind it, but it's just an assumption, because if we combine data, we are always better than just looking in one data source and making the decision. So yeah, we don't have a real algorithm behind this estimation. And okay, so the second part of the question was, can you repeat?
Like, how does it relate to the like the rate, the health rate with adults?
With adults, I do not understand completely, but as a main the main advantage in the children's hospital is that they are all disciplines from medicine. In adult medicine, you have different hospitals for different diseases, and so one hospital does genetic analysis, while other hospitals do radiology, so on, and you have different hospitals for this, and it's a very difficult task for someone to make a change in many hospitals. While in one children's hospital, where you have one clinic director who decides what software is used, it's much easier there.
And another question that we got is, you said that you converted the data to human genotype data. What does this mean? And maybe an additional question is, can we participate in this challenge without deep medical knowledge?
Yes. Without deep medical knowledge, I'm also a computer scientist. I'm not a bioinformatician like on the slide. So I started there without medical knowledge, and our idea behind this is that we convert all data into this human phenotype ontology, because then it's a graph just where we with nodes, and it does not make any difference if you know what a known node means or not. So the main problem for us is that there are many people who now know AI, and there are many people who know medicine, but the combined knowledge is very rare. So you not often find AI specialists with medical knowledge. And so our goal is that we provide the data in our graph, so that people without medical knowledge can analyze this data. And so we hope for a bigger market of people who can look into it. And yeah, this is also the second reason for converting it into the human phenotype ontology is, at the moment with the Mimic 3 data set, there are only blood values. and there you can do a supervised training, but then you cannot extend this approach to genetic data because you have no clue what you have learned there. So if you first combine it or convert it into the human phenotype ontology, then you can see, okay, this blood value is relevant for this disease, and this gene is also relevant for this gene. So I'm perhaps make a feature reduction and just training for this diagnose these two parameters, for example, or in a more fancier solution, you do graph neural network. I'm not sure what the best solution will be, but if there's a solution, and we are not sure that there is a solution, but if there's a solution, that this will help a lot of children.
And then we have a last question from Katarina Gelata. Does the data we get focus on one particular rare disease? And maybe to open up the question, on what diseases, if it's more than one, does it focus?
It's on many diseases, and the Mimic3 dataset is not about rare diseases. It's just blood values, but they are only they are already connected with this human phenotype ontology. But the goal is that you can predict different diagnoses. As many diagnoses you can, we assume that for diseases which many people have, there will be a solution. But sometimes in Munich we have only 1 or 2 patients with the same diagnosis, and we assume that this will be impossible to predict. But we are interested to find, to look into it if it's possible, perhaps with this graph approach. So, but you can use any data set if you like. If you have another data set, you can use it. However, it's important that we can convert it to this human phenotype ontology. And yeah, so you can ask me in Slack. So if we can convert your data set if you have another. So yeah.
So we have one more question coming from Lazarus Tembakis. How are you planning on evaluating the AI classification prediction after applying it to your real data?
We will. We have in our hospital at the moment we are running the algorithm on real data where the diagnosis is already set by a clinician, and then we will compare how correct this information is. And of course, if your algorithm finds some new information, we will review our cases, and clinicians will look into the case if perhaps the algorithm is correct and someone has overseen some information.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel, for this challenge with a very high social impact. And we're very glad to have you with us. And we're going to the next challenge setter, which is also part of our Munich ecosystem. Actually, it is the host of us all. It is the city of Munich. And we are very happy to have Stephanie Lemde with us. She is an IT architect in the, IT Referat, IT department of the city of Munich. And so welcome to the Makeathon. And how are you?
Fine, thank you. I brought my colleague Lena Barth with me, and we both are very excited to present our AI challenge today. Almost everybody got to know COVID rapid tests the last 2 years, I think. And our challenge is about COVID rapid test image recognition for blind people. Blind people are able to perform COVID rapid tests by themselves, but of course are not able to see the test results. We think that it would be a great idea to create an impaired people to help them recognize. Yeah.
It just takes a minute, but the presentation will be on in a second.
Oh,
please continue.
Okay. So the app should help blind people to recognize the results of COVID tests. We got in contact with the Bavarian Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and they were very excited about the idea and confirmed that it would be a great help for them too. And one of them, one member of the association, will also answer your questions on April the 23rd, when the Makeathon takes place. We can provide you with a small data set of pictures of COVID rapid tests we collected. And now Lena is going to give you some more details on the challenge.
Thank you, Steffi. Okay, now I would like to introduce you to the challenge we have set. The challenge is to create a prototype for blind people, which does a verification of Corona quick test. The blind person has a possibility to upload a picture of his Corona quick test to a platform, which checks the test and returns the test results. The blind person gets an information if the test is positive, negative, or invalid. The difficulty lies in the fact that the images of the test hardly differ. The prototype must recognize the small distinction and the number of red lines and return the correct information depending on the number of the line. 1 red line is negative, 2 red lines is positive, or no line is invalid. It is also necessary to create a business model and a marketing strategy for the platform, because only through the right marketing many blind people become aware of this platform and can use it. This was our short presentation, and we are looking forward to your question.
Well, thank you very much for this exciting pitch. We were I'm very impressed. You know, this is something like we experience every day with the COVID test, and I personally never thought of it. And what difficulties might arise if you're blind? And so my question would be, like, how many blind people are there in Germany or in the EU? Maybe you have a number. Like, how many people does that challenge or problem actually affect?
Oh, this would be a great question for the member and for our friend of the Association for the Blind, because unfortunately I don't know the correct number of blind people in Germany or Bavaria.
I searched it for 10 minutes, and Google said this is over 2.3 million people.
So also quite a big impact.
Yeah, sounds like a major challenge for our participants, and tackling this problem would have a huge impact on our society. And now we have another question to you is, how many data points do you already have?
We collected just a small number. It's 300 photos of COVID rapid tests. But I think you could also create pictures by yourself. The next 2 weeks it should be possible to collect some of them.
So I guess every participant who does a COVID test, please post it into a Slack channel, and then we create our data set by ourselves. Let's hope not too many people are positive. Another question that I had is like we are doing it all the time, right? And so sometimes the test is false positive. How do we need to consider that? And then also, or false negative. And then the other point is sometimes, especially when the COVID virus level is going down, the line is kind of fading. Is that also something that we need to consider in a way?
Yes, because we did a small prototype by ourselves in the innovation lab of the IT department, and we saw that this actually is the difficulty, because the differences are very small between the red lines, and there are also shadows which can be recognized as a line, and the lines are fading. You can turn the test, and we want to know by the students of this Makeathon if it's possible to get a good result with a high possibility that the test is correct, is recognized correctly.
And now we have a question coming from Katerina. Can a difficulty arise from the fact that photos can be blurry if made by blind people?
Pardon, I didn't got that.
Can difficulty arise from the fact that the photos can be blurry if made by blind people?
I don't know.
Like blurry means basically when it's not like super sharp, you know, the photo.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that problem too, and maybe it could be a solution to create an app which takes a lot of photos, maybe up to 10, and could combine the possibility that the AI recognizes the test as positive. So maybe the blurred photos might not be that important.
Did we go into our next question? Do all the COVID rapid tests look the same, or do we focus on a specific brand of test?
They do not look the same, but I think you should create a prototype maybe with all different tests, because in our prototype we just did not a classification but an object detection model, and we try to focus on the lines, and the lines are always the same within the different brands of COVID tests. Maybe this is a solution.
Maybe one idea could be image segmentation, where the lines are cut out, and then it is being classified through a model, and it sounds like quite an interesting task, quite many different problems to tackle, because we need to look out for how do we take the photo, how do we actually position the test correctly because the photo is taken by a blind person, and how do we get an accurate result, because getting a positive or negative answer is quite important to our modern day society when it comes to corona. Yeah, I think that we have covered all of our questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Stephanie Lemle. Thank you very much, Lina.
And we will transition to the last medical challenge we have in our Makeathon. We will go to MI for People. MI for People is supports non-profit organizations with AI and machine learning, live AI and machine learning. And we are very happy to have Paul Springer with us. He's the co-founder and managing director of MI for People. Welcome, Paul.
Yeah, hello guys. Thank you very much. Also, welcome to everyone in the stream. I'm really happy to be here. And let me present. I hope you can already see something.
At the moment we cannot, but it takes some time. So please go ahead, maybe introduce the challenge already, and we will then do the transition.
Okay. Okay. Now I think you should be able to see.
Yes, we see your screen.
Yeah, okay, good, cool. Okay, first maybe a couple of words about MI for People, go to the actual challenge. So we are a non-profit organization which is motivated by the fact that currently our society is benefiting from AI a lot, but mainly through the path of businesses and industries. So we get better consumer product or have better services. But unfortunately, the public goods sector is barely benefiting from artificial intelligence, but there are really tremendous potentials in how we can apply this technology to better the situation of people in need. And therefore, we have created MI for People, which is called Machine Intelligence for People, as a non-profit organization, which is basically a network of data scientists, machine learning engineers, data engineers, software developers, startups, and NPOs. And we are focusing on applied research in the area of how we can apply intelligent algorithms for public good. we build working applications and prototypes and also test them in the field with our NPO partners who are on site. Everything what we are doing is open source. It is free of charge and should be available and easy to use for everyone. But main beneficiaries of our work are NPOs who actually deliver the public good to the people in need. And we are completely volunteer driven. And we are working on very different domains on agriculture or on environmental problems, but today we will focus on healthcare, and our challenge is focused on healthcare. And as Siemens project already, people from Siemens already mentioned, we have currently a big shortfall of health workers, but not only in Europe or US, let's say, but also in developing countries. And the situation with shortfall of medical workers is even worse, or especially severe in these regions. And because of lack of the doctors in these regions, people actually die. And often they die because overstressed doctors who maybe have no special education in some particular domains make false diagnoses. And these doctors or hospitals or in general people in this region will benefit from an intelligent system, let's say intelligent assistant, that can provide diagnosis based on various data inputs. But for this challenge, let's say images like photos, X-rays, or CT and MRI scans that can be then used by primary care physicians to make first diagnosis and then direct people with diseases to specialized workers who might be very far away, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away. So, but currently, because the technology is very expensive, the developing world has barely access to it. And it is where AI4People want to improve the situation, where we want to create a free of charge, easy to use and open source computer vision system that is able to cope with various diseases and various sorts of inputs. And it is a really big task and a long-term project. But for this challenge, we focus only on X-ray images of the chest region and only on 14 typical diseases. And the data you will get are easy to access data from NIH Clinical Center. The dataset is called Chest X-ray, very prominent dataset in this area. But it is really big, so we have reduced it to 1/10, like around 10,000 data points, so that you are able to proceed it within a weekend. But for us, not a perfect model is so much interesting, but how we can use this model in a context of developing world. It means that compared to, let's say, situation in Europe, we have additional challenges that must be taken into account. For example, like bad access to computing power or cloud, or old X-rays devices that produce blurred images and produce maybe not digital images, but analog images, so that you have to like make photo of it, where you get additional challenges like different light conditions or angles, or just photo quality of a smartphone you take photo with. So for the teams in this challenge, I think it's not so important to create the best model, but it is much more important to think how this model can be used in the real world, and how we should also maybe even augment the data input we have in the chest X-ray to be able to provide good results in hospitals in developing world. So and we will also award our own prize on it, not very big, but still some funny goodie bags of worth of around €80 per team member. So basically done with the main presentation. Yeah. So you have?
Thank you very much. That has been MI for People. And now we jump into the Q&A section. And we have some questions already stacked up. You want to begin?
Yes. So first question would be, how many people are actually involved with MI for People? I think how many researchers are working with you?
So we are a relatively young organizations. Currently, we are around 2,000 individuals, several startups and consulting companies who pledged resources to help, and some NPOs we are working with. It is around it's 2 in Germany, 1 in India, and 1 in Vietnam. Yeah, and 1 hopefully in Africa. And considering this particular project, it is a new project. We will kick off it properly in May, but it is, so to say, this challenge is, so to say, a prologue to the actual project. Currently, we plan 6 people for this project to work on, very good specialists with various backgrounds, medicine, data science, cloud, and engineers and software developers. And in fact, I hope that maybe somebody, some of the challenge team members will get interest to cooperate with us and help us to build applications that can make this world a little bit better.
Then we have a second question. That is, you said that you reduced the data set.
Yeah.
Does this mean that the resolution of the number? Does this mean that you reduce the resolution or the number of images?
No, we reduced the number of images. We also took out complex cases, because sometimes you have different problems in the chest region or different disease at the same time. We reduce the complexity by choosing only images that have only 1 diagnosis. So they're relatively simple, or a little bit more simple to identify as real world scenarios. Yeah, we reduce it basically because the original data set is around 42 GB of data. I think 120,000 photos or images. Will be probably kind of difficult to process all the data in 1 weekend. Yeah.
And perhaps one last question remaining. Did you already apply effects on the provided data set to simulate the effects of different life conditions, etc.?
No, in fact, we didn't. And it might be an interesting direction to work on during the challenge.
All right, thank you very much, Paul. This has been MI for People.
It was a pleasure, thank you.
And now we move on to our last challenge, and to the third track, that is environment. And here we have
Start Munich, but not to worry, you're not going through a marathon like with MEDEC. We just have one challenge in the environment track, so don't worry too much. But therefore, it is not much more important. But therefore, this single challenge has quite an impact. So I would like to welcome Nikolai Gerold. He's a member of Start Munich and is working in the VC sector. How are you today?
Hey, I'm fine. Thanks for the introduction. I hope that all the participants are still hanging on and are ready for the last presentation now. So I think in the last year, all people got along with the hype that at the moment is like space technology is coming along and getting really far with its technology. So for example, SpaceX or also Planet, one of the most innovative companies in the last year. So nowadays we have complete and 24/7 coverage of the entire world with imaging data, and especially it's cheap. But the Planet CEO already said the biggest issue at the moment is there are too many applications and too much data for any one company to handle. So for the one part of the challenge, we want to get like more developers and data scientists and other people interested into space data and satellite imaging to fill that developer gap. And so, for example, Planet is already able to map coral reefs in the world with the data. So it's limitless what you can do with it. And in our challenge, we leave it open. So we have a really good data set of Eurosat, which is mapping the entire world every 5 days. But they also have already a labeled data set. So they label their satellite data for land usage applications. So for example, agriculture and 9 other classes. So this can already be used for example, to predict the land usage. And at the moment, it's especially relevant for agriculture and forestry management. But we realized what's lacking a bit is applications for sustainability. And what we want you to do is that you keep no limits on your creativity. So we are particularly interested in applications for regenerative agriculture. So at the moment, the agriculture is degrading the land really quickly. So each year, the land size equivalent to Great Britain is degrading due to the usage. And this would be one possible application for you to track. So you can use the labeled data set to identify the land and then try to apply it, for example, to another region of the world to find the degraded land, or also because the satellite data is available for 5 years now and will be available for the next 20 years to try to get a hold of new degrading land and changes in the landscape. And also what you also could do, another option is, for example, forest tracking or the tracking of deforestation. So that's another big problem in the sustainability and the environment right now, which could inform many different policies and other intervention to prevent deforestation and illegal logging. And a last one, for example, is to find land in the current food crisis. So which different areas could be suited for agriculture, for example. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, for this very interesting challenge. I find it very cool that it's also about food, which is basically my background. And I wanted to ask about, for example, how can you assess the quality of land with the help of satellite pictures? Maybe you could elaborate a bit about that.
So the quality of land is actually, it's a bit of a challenge, but most degraded land is actually not that it's it's not that it's still planted, but mostly it's really just plain land, plain fields, just the earth showing out. And also you can track like a bunch of different metrics through the different wavelength. So for example, you can track the aerosol scattering above the different landscapes to look for different CO2 sequestration and stuff like that. Also, you can track the chlorophyll absorption to track how much plants are still on the land. And by tracking it over time, you could also predict whether it degraded or it didn't degrade, because the plant life and the wildlife is still pretty vivid.
We already have some questions in our channel. Should the solution focus on Europe, or do you see more benefits if we focus on countries like Africa or South America?
So the data set covers a wide variety of different countries. And I think, like I said, there is no limit to creativity. I think Africa would be a really nice place to apply it, especially if you're looking at the Sahara and the surrounding place, that we have an increasing challenge with the certification. That it would be really nice to have like some real insight and some data-driven insight, especially which land masses are degrading and where we have the biggest problems at the moment.
Then we have a second question, that is, where can we find information about what wavelengths indicate chlorophyll?
So chlorophyll, it's actually, there are like a bunch of data sets already out there and a bunch of papers. So it's one particular band range that is responsible to track the chlorophyll absorption. So I think the green wavelength is the obvious choice. So it's called the B4 wavelength. But you can find that online on, for example, eox.at is one site who did like a bunch of research on the Sentinel-2 satellites.
And what do you think, what's the impact of the challenge? Like, how many people would profit if we look at the problem of hunger, or and how do you think will it develop over the next years?
So basically, the impact can be quite limitless. So what we imagine, the imaging and the prediction of the land usage is one potential first step for bigger and more broader solution to actually go from the current land usage and how to degrade it into more innovative and more preventive solution to stop, on the one side, land degradation from happening, but also to take measures against land degradation that already happened. Because in the field of agriculture, for example, the Project Drawdown already specified which interventions you could do to return the land to its prior state. And this could have so broad implications and really help many different peoples, especially if the climate change continues in countries that are deep in the south, who are more impacted by slight increases in temperature, where it could really help if they have like some information how which land is degraded, how we can stop it from happening, and how we can turn the land around again.
All right. Thank you very much. That has been the Q&A section for the last challenge. Thank you very much, Nikolai.
You're welcome.
And now we have concluded with all of the 9 challenges. In my opinion, all of them are major. All of them have huge social impact, and AI could play a vital role into solving these problems. So make sure to read upon these challenges. Make sure to contact people for each challenge to ask any question. They are always online. And now we go to tomorrow's event. That is the pub quiz. And this event is hosted by Oli, our team member at the Makeathon department.
A very fun guy, by the way.
Yeah, and you're gonna have loads of fun tomorrow. It is not only a quiz, but you can also utilize this event as your team fighting event. You can meet people that are also participants in this year's Makeathon. You can find your teammates, or you can just have fun and win prizes. And the prize for the pub quiz is 100 euros. And make sure to tune in tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central European Time.
But there's still lots more to come. And therefore, I would like to correct something. I was wrong when I did the slides. The team event tomorrow starts at 8. My apologies. I hope Ollie doesn't scrutinize me. But anyway, tomorrow we also have a workshop, OpenAI Codex, from 6 to 7:30. Then the team finding event from 8 to 10. We will also then in the upcoming days have again a business workshop with Unetic, then the team finding event number 2, where you can mingle again, and then we will also learn about AI for beginners, and then have the team submission on the 15th.
So please bear in mind that without submitting your team, you cannot participate in next weekend's Makeathon. So this date, 15th of April, at noon, no, at midnight, sorry, at midnight, you have to submit your team, and you will receive more information in Slack from us. So don't miss out on that date, and don't miss out on other team building events, as well as the Codex workshop, the AI for Beginners workshop, and we're gonna have lots of fun.
And so we thank you very much for your attention today. You rock, like you just lit up the introduction channel. Please continue there, light up the meme channel. There's some stuff to win. Kick off the pub quiz tomorrow and have lots of fun, learn something, connect, and collaborate. And we wish you all a great evening. Bye.
Bye.